Welcome back to the Movie House, and today I must remind you that I am but one man. Despite best efforts, there's gobs of movies I haven't seen, so every now and then one must play catch-up. And today I want to talk about nostalgia is a strange thing. It can make you yearn for things you know weren't that great to begin with, but they were part of your childhood, so they're linked to a simpler time. And one such thing I do miss was wandering through the video store on a Friday night looking for something to rent for the weekend, being enticed by the direct-to-video schlock that had killer box art, catchy taglines, and gonzo premises. Problem was that most of these promised a movie they had no way in hell of delivering with their limited budgets. Fast forward to today, and we're in the ironic inverse, where modern Hollywood sees productions with budgets ballooning out of control, all while delivering increasingly diminishing returns. On the other side, the barriers to quality cameras, editing software, and digital effects have been all but removed. And that brings us nicely to Primitive War, last year's indie hit, which after finally catching it, I can confidently and shockingly say that not only does it deliver on the promise of its premise, impressing on a technical level, it also, and I say this as a guy whose favorite movie is Jurassic Park, blew the last couple Jurassic movies completely out of the water. The plot is real simple here, folks. Vietnam War, dinosaurs. That's it. How did the dinosaurs get there? Well, if you played Dino Crisis, there you go. Stop overthinking it. Ragtag team is dropped into a jungle valley to recover a lost squad of berets, run into prehistoric predators while Fortunate Son plays in the background. Based on the book series by Ethan Pettis and helmed by Australian indie filmmaker Luke Spark, who also served as co-writer, producer, editor, production designer, and special effects supervisor, this was clearly a passion project for him and the small but dedicated team of artists he assembled to plug away and deliver something that puts the industry on blast, because despite its absolutely batshit premise, this movie rolled. I had so much fun watching this. For sure, it's treading on familiar ground. Beyond Jurassic, one can't help but recall 2017's Kong Skull Island, a movie I also unabashedly enjoyed despite its overstuffed cast of mostly red shirts, but Primitive War does enough different and with way less to make it stand out. Do the effects stand toe-to-toe with the likes of like the recent Jurassic World Rebirth? No, but this was made for a reported $7 million, and there shouldn't be a difference of $173 million to go from this to this. This movie, for all intents and purposes, looks fantastic, and it delivers on things that much more expensive movie failed to. Not only does Primitive War have some genuinely fantastic action set pieces, the last act alone being worth the price of admission, there's also some quality character work here. Each soldier of Vulture Squad is clearly defined, with like one gimmick or trait to make them stand out. This guy's the smartass, this guy's the PTSD-stricken sniper, this guy's the man of God, etc. The script is cliche, sure, but it's also competent, playing to the strengths of both of its subgenres enough so you actually feel something when a soldier gets ripped apart. Which, speaking of, one of the common complaints fans of the Jurassic Park books have towards the movies is that Steven Spielberg softened the edges of a very violent piece of science horror to make a more family-friendly blockbuster that, like most of his filmography, skirts around the blood but never fully commits to it. But because this flick doesn't have to appeal to a broad audience in order to recoup a large budget, it has no scruples about being gory as hell. There's a couple moments here that made me squirm and cackle at the same time. It was awesome. And why does Jurassic Park have to hold a monopoly on dinosaurs anyway? Can't we have some variety? Like, okay, we've had some attempts in the past, but they all eventually, inevitably, faltered. Be it R-rated schlock like Roger Corman's Carnosaur, G-rated schlock like Charles Band's Prehysteria, Don Bluth's Land Before Time, which was one decent movie that birthed 13 schlocky sequels. Primitive War shows there's so much untapped potential beyond like faux nature documentaries and theme park attractions gone wrong. And it showed it could be done for a fraction of what Hollywood spends normally. If the film industry wants to survive the fast-approaching AI apocalypse, they need to pivot to making more projects the way this was made. The future of film as a viable art form is to go back to a time before every movie had to be a giant tentpole. The age of the $300 million movie is dead. Most of those ridiculous budgets go to overpaid adult pretenders who don't even get asses in seats anymore anyway. Social media having killed their mystique, revealing most of them to be utter nitwits who hold their audiences with contempt. Instead, here you get a cast of mostly TV actors like Jeremy Piven, Ryan Kwanten, and Tricia Helfer, among others, who all turn in more than solid performances. You can't tell me that Scarlett Johansson's Zora Bennett was a better character worth the $20 million paycheck she got in Rebirth over Anthony Ingruber's Keys here. One's a perfectly tanned plank of wood. The other's a charming asshole who refers to Utah Raptors as foghorn leghorn motherfuckers. You see where I'm going? The money hose stunts creativity. Why use your head when you can just throw more money at a problem? A limited budget forces filmmakers to be smart about every aspect of a movie. Whether it's simple but utterly effective things like just showing the reflections of stalking dinosaurs' eyes in the bush to convey the encroaching danger, to having most of the big dino action scenes set at night to reduce the computational workload, to hell, even just how they handled the era-specific music. To watch a Vietnam movie is to expect a ton of very specific needle drops. But a low-budget flick like this really can't afford to pay for the aforementioned Creedence Clearwater Revival's Fortunate Son. So instead, he used John Fogerty's version after he left CCR, because that's not the popular one, and it costs a hell of a lot less to license. All the songs here are familiar but slightly alternate versions of popular songs by the original artists that fulfill your Vietnam movie soundtrack requirements without blowing half of your budget on them. Again, really creative ways to get what you need when you can't rely on big studio money. Now, is the movie flawless? God, no. At 2 hours and 13 minutes, it runs a tad long, and it could have been trimmed up to keep it tighter. There's also a couple plot conveniences where a character suddenly, switches his tune about something without the moment justifying said switch. And lastly, despite my previous gushings, there's still some effect shots that don't work as well as others, mainly the ones set during daytime. But all of these end up being nitpicks more than anything, and now that a sequel's been announced, I can't wait to see where this goofy-ass story goes. I'm sure as hell more excited about this than whatever the next Jurassic World ends up being, because in the end, I found Primitive War to be a really fun bit of solid celluloid. But that's enough for me. I'd like to hear what y'all thought. Like, comment, and share if you feel so inclined, but more importantly, until next time, stay safe out there.